had applied for this grant for 12 years, and I felt really happy to have finally gotten the grant. And I think partnering with Arboretum really allowed me to create this community component that was important to be able to, collaborate with the Arboretum and the research, the bee research that you're doing there. And the photographs that I took were taken from the grounds at the research center. This was the first painting I did in the series because I really had to work out how I wanted my imagery to look. And this was a photograph I took actually by mistake. My camera slipped out of my hand and I got this blurry motion image. And when I was able to blow it up here in the studio, that to me was how I wanted to show from the bee's perspective, basically. What I learned through my research at the Arboretum was that native bees are actually the ones that are more in trouble than the honeybees. And it's hard to know where they live and how many there are. And this kind of a plant, I learned, is one that you should not cut down in the winter and just have it be available so that the native bees can grow in during the winter time. So I really wanted to show that too, especially with some educational process that I learned. This is probably the second painting in the series, and I knew I also wanted to incorporate printmaking because I have a printmaking background. I used cardboard that I inked up, printed, and then made a screen print image out of it. And I love the repetition of that and wanted to do some of that that emulated a honeycomb. I went to the Arboretum about 12 times to take photographs at different times of day, and this one was, when I got it back to the studio, I just had a feeling of sort of laying on my belly in the grass like a little child and looking up through the plants. And it just was very peaceful, and I really wanted to accentuate that by having it be one of the larger pieces. So this is one of my photographs printed on the tissue paper, and I will cut this down to size the 12 by 12 panel. And then I'll embed this into the wax. So right here I've got some beeswax already melted. And it's got the Damar resin in it as well. It's got a little bit of a honey color to it. And I'm just gonna start brushing this on. I'll add color, and then I'll add clear and color and clear. And that gives it this sort of window into the piece because of that translucency that happens. So this is an oil pigment stick, and it basically has unrefined beeswax and oil paint in it. And it differs from regular oil paint that there's not a lot of oil in it, which when we're using encaustic, we don't need the oil. We're just trying to get the paint into the grooves of the texture of the painting. So I'm just going to begin by taking off a little bit here. And I'll move it around, and it'll start to get worked into the wax and hold on to any texture that is here. Now I can add more layers of wax over this and just subdue that color a little bit and keep adding back and forth. So this is basically what we would call a tube of paint. It's encaustic paint, which is beeswax mixed with pigment. And I'm heating it up on this griddle, which is 220 degrees. And the wax melts between 160 and 220. And this is the paint that I'm using on my paintings. So I'm just going to start to brush this on. And you can see it's kind of hitting the high spots of the painting. So it's almost like a collaboration with the wax. And the wax that's underneath is very textural, so it's only going where that paint is kind of high up. And then I'm going to take my heat gun again and just smooth it out and fuse it. So I'm taking the encaustic medium again over the layers that I just created, and it'll start to subdue those layers. So this is what it would look like as a finished image. So I've got lots of translucency here around the flower, but I've built up some texture with the oil stick and white on the other side.